This is Megaphone from Medvale Media. I'm Dave Self. This is where we hand the megaphone to healthcare professionals to share their thoughts, their perspectives, and the occasional rant about this increasingly dynamic world of healthcare. And today we are so privileged to have a friend and colleague, Dr. Jim Souza, Chief Physician Executive from St. Luke's Health System, joining us. Jim, welcome to Megaphone.
Thanks, Dave. I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk with you.
Well, and Jim, because we do know each other fairly well, I'm going to qualify up front. I'm going to call you Jim, not Dr. Souza, and
Yeah.
it's not, there's no disrespect intended to you or any of your colleagues.
No.
And you can, kick me under the table later when we're at a meeting together.
No worries. Many patients call me Jim or Souza, just Souza.
Or something else, I think, probably. But so Jim, help us with your journey. Where did you start? Where are you from? The journey you're on? How did you come to be the Chief Physician Executive of St. Luke's Health System?
Yeah, accidentally. I grew up in Billings, Montana. Dad was a machinist in an oil refinery. Mom was a homemaker until she went back to school in the 80s and got an exercise physiology degree, and then started an aerobic dance business with the leg warmers and all the things,
Oh
Uh,
man, I didn't know that history. Were you ever photographed in leg warmers? It was
no, I was not.
okay. I'm just
I
checking.
do have a bad senior picture, but nobody gets to see that. Yeah, it involved a perm and a mullet. Um, I used to have hair. Uh, yeah, I was not interested in medicine. I kind of a nerdy kid, definitely played sports, but was never good really at any of them. Was better at school, music. I was in all the versions of the band that involved woodwind instruments. Um, Writing, school paper, and speech and debate. Those were the things I loved. And I went to college to be a journalist. That was my first major. Um, and in my second year, I had an advisor who told me, I mean, at that time, again, I had a full head of hair. I was a better looking guy. He said I had the looks for the future of journalism, but not the voice. I wasn't blessed with the Dave Self primetime media voice. And he told me print journalism was going to bite the dust, and I think he was kind of right. And yeah, there were some guys down the hall from me that were pre-med students, and they were kind of a couple of screw offs. And I thought, well, if they could do it, maybe I could do it. That sounds interesting. And so I changed my major to biology, got into med school, um, didn't know what I wanted to be. So, I mean, this is like my whole story. It's all kind of accidental. Not sure what I want to do. I focus on something, I do okay at it, and then the next thing happens. So I picked internal medicine. Any physicians who happen to see this will be like, oh, yeah, that's where the people who don't know what they want to do go. um, Pulmonary was the same story. It was kind of accidental. There were three senior physicians who kind of imprinted on me. So I was like, oh, yeah, I want to do that. I started in academics as a clinician teacher at a local VA. I was good at teaching, but my job also required research, and I was bad at research, and I didn't like it. Then I went into private practice, and my leadership journey was also accidental, sort of a crisis moment in a small practice, and I was kind of thrust into leadership probably before I was ready, if I'm honest about it. But found that I had some natural skill at it, kind of liked it, and the first intentional professional career action I took was in my last leadership job, and that was my first significant system leadership role. I was the vice president of medical affairs in one part of our healthcare system, and then about 8 years ago now took on the role that I'm in today. Um, so that's how it happened. Wasn't very intentional until the end.
Well, you also helped me learn what VPMA really means. It's spelled the same as sheriff, I believe.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah, I think that was the description given to me. I'm also going to share a quick anecdote. So I'm no, you and I've known each other a while now. The first time that I really had contact with you, Jim, was on a panel at another local hospital facility, St. Alphonsus, and it was for a pretty packed room of folks. There were three of us up there, and I was still on the payer side of the equation, and we were speaking to this group, and more our opinions about the ills and the challenges, but the solutions for healthcare seem to be tracking more in line. And I thought, man, I could work with this guy. And little did we know that sometime later that would come to pass. What I have learned also from you is that the role of chief physician executive is more than just three words on a business card. Can you unpack for us what your role is today, and what do you envision that maybe evolving to in the future, not just for you, but for the role in healthcare, and how chief physician executive is that leader of the future?
Yeah, good question. So starting with today, um, and just the mechanics of my job in this healthcare system are that I have a large influence role and very little in the way of operational oversight. I oversee the physician and APP enterprise, if you will, in our healthcare system. And I won't go through like boring stuff like structure and reports, but my remit um, to um, the boss, the CEO, is to lead the clinical transformation toward improved clinical performance. And as I do that, take care of, always keep at the front of my mind, taking care of the workforce that we're asking to do that. And my part of that workforce is really the physician and APP uh, portion of the workforce. Um, and it's sacred work. It's important work. It's challenging work. I'm privileged to do it. It's incredibly interesting, um, challenging. There are no boring days in my job, um, and I think that the way my role has matured in this healthcare system might be different from other chief physician executives. Um, the key difference seems to be how much operational oversight different physician executives have. But I will say that these things that I talked about that are my primary remit, leading the clinical transformation toward improved clinical performance and taking care of that workforce, that's a part of every physician executive's job, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and absolutely essential. Um, I think the person in this role needs to um, be able to articulate um, a vision for the future for the physicians and APPs who have to effect all of this change that is not transactional, that is transformational, rooted to their um, core principles that put him into this line of work in the first place, and is inspiring. The person in this role needs to be a trusted partner to them and a trusted partner to all of my operational and shared services colleagues. Um, where it goes in the future, um, I can't see. I wish I could see further in the future than just a few years. But things are so topsy turvy right now that
I think that's all any of us could look at really is it, a few years. Nobody puts together a 5-year strategic plan anymore and thinks that it is durable enough to last 5 years. So anything you've got past 12 months, I think is bonus time.
yeah, I think everything I just touched on it, it is only going to be further amplified in terms of need in the next 3 years. I think we're entering a real, I don't know if it's an inflection point or a breakthrough moment or how we would characterize this moment in healthcare, but something big is happening and it's going to take an emotionally intelligent leader inside any organization to be able to get the people through. And yeah, I'm also optimistic, Dave. I I think there's a real returning to our roots type of a moment happening right now if we do it right.
For physicians or for the healthcare profession writ large?
Do you think probably for the profession writ large, but I guess the the two parties that I would say where that is most true for might be for the people who become patients through the act of raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I need help with something."
Mhm.
And then the people who are the physicians and APPs who are actually delivering the care and, writing the care plans, at a let me unpack that. At a macro level, um, like the whole profession, right, is rooted in that relationship. And if we're honest about it, really until the modern era of medicine, all that was there was the relationship and snake oil. I mean, there wasn't a lot of effective treatment that the provider in that relationship really brought to the relationship. And, in the last 100 years, that's totally changed. And we have, you know, amazing drugs, um, amazing surgical interventions, enhanced diagnostics, and we've even cracked the genome, and we're starting to design things now.
Right.
I think if all we had was relationship and no tools in the early era of medicine, and then right up to what I felt was like a well balanced sweet spot in my own life, which was the Marcus Welby era. I grew up watching, sorry, it was reruns of Marcus Welby by the time I was watching them, Dave. Um, that guy was long on relationship and he had a few really useful tools. And what's happened in the last 50 years is I think the balance has, the pendulum went all the way the other way. And we've seen advancement in the technological aspects of medicine, physician by physician, enhancing individual productivity, driven by the business model. And all of those things have happened um, to the detriment, I believe, of the more human parts of that relationship. And I am really doubling down in my own mental model and thinking that in this moment, and it's ironic to me what might save us to bring that back into balance and give us the opportunity to double down on the human, the connection, the relationship. is technology. I mean, I've started to see these AI innovations that are probably lumped best together as, kind of ride-alongs to the provider, whether it's AI scribes or an AI that's embedded in the record that helps you see things about the patient you couldn't see before, or helps you close gaps in care that you needed to close before and you didn't have the time. Um, I think the technology, ironically, is going to give us a chance to come back and focus on the human and the connection and the relationship and bring it back in balance. And I don't know, we could achieve here like Marcus Welby to the fourth power, um, i- if we do this right.
Let's pull on that thread a little bit around technology and jump into a lot of the reading. And admittedly, I'm a early adopter. I'm a tech freak, and I'm a gadget guy. And AI has just been this incredible playground. Artificial intelligence has been a place to peel it back. And I will also admit that I personally am using it sparingly so that I don't get addicted to it. One. And two, the reading that many of us have been able to do lately are showing a couple of things. One is an over reliance, not just addiction, but over reliance. Um, and specific to the patient physician relationship, that I'm not able to get in to see my physician right away. So I tap into my favorite AI agent, my concern, my question. I get back some information, may or may not be accurate, may or may not be complete. I'm predisposed to a direction. I come to you. How does that change your reaction to me?
Well, that's a great question. I think it depends. Um, Sometimes, uh, so let me go. Now, I'm a curious person. So it, it generally is not going to change my approach in the limited patient care that I still do. When I go back to the early days of the internet, when all that suddenly became available to patients was this trove of information and the opportunity to connect, and like a handful of patients that I had with so-called orphan diseases where they're incredibly rare. They're like 1 in a million, 1 in a 2 million type of an incidence. Um, One of the things I noticed in the early days of social media were that my patients would be coming to see me, and suddenly they were connected to an entire network of people like them. And they were coming with more sophisticated questions. The questions weren't, well, doctor, what can we do? They were, well, doctor, what about this treatment or that treatment? And I found that I became sort of their partner in navigating complexity. I think in the AI world that still applies. I think the reason I said it depends is because sometimes um, our frontline physicians are faced with uh, literally an unformed set of opinions. Like, hey, I before I got here to see you, I looked this up on AI. What do you think, doc? Alternatively, and this is an increasing challenge for us in the era of in increasing really at an exponential rate misinformation and disinformation. Folks are coming with more concrete sets of thoughts and opinions about this information that they've gotten. And the approach to that is still rooted in the same things. It's still rooted in the concept of let me be your partner. Um, let me help you translate this. But exactly how that approach plays out, I don't know if we want to dabble in misinformation, disinformation, but exactly how it plays out depends on kind of which of those you're being presented with. And I'll just finish this line of thinking with, in the best case scenario, um, we're appreciative that the patient has come to us with this question. We're acknowledging that in these times, they are drowning in information. And frankly, it's not fair to ask anyone to sort through so much, and especially when it's conflicting information. And if we can leverage that, again, connection and partnership with the patient and just say, wow, that's a ton of information you're working through. I'd love to partner with you on that. Is that okay? It can really get us to good places together. Um, but it is creating its own unique challenges right now. I know that for sure.
Well, it sounds like a whole new section of training for a physician or a med student to actually get in the groove of that early on, because I doubt very much that you were trained natively in that line of thought.
I think it should be, Dave, and I think it's not yet. Um, I have my oldest child is a provider in healthcare who came up, learned her profession in 20 and 21.
Wow.
And she has told me that she didn't have a single clinical preceptor experience, not one, in which she needed to enter a room and be prepared to meet with, maybe a little bit of mistrust. Maybe someone who's been forming these more concrete sets of misinformation or disinformation, and contrasting that with today, that is a daily, multiple times daily experience. So, again, back to the theme of, we're in a moment right now where inflection point, breakthrough moment, transition. I don't know what it is, but big things are happening in healthcare, um, in the patient space as well.
What big things are happening in your health system? What is the strategic, maybe it's an inflection point, but what is the strategic direction of St. Luke's Health System in this increasingly wacky world where, I mean, the compass needle spins more than it sets a true north some days, it seems. But what's happening in your world?
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. So in our system, we we've got an integrated delivery system with hospitals, a big medical group that where we deliver care to people and have done so for decades and decades. We've got a less mature clinically integrated network where we connect other um, hospitals, other groups to risk-based contracts. And then the newest kid on our block is an integrated health plan. Um, and making all of that work together, what's at the front of my mind in the work I am leading with our clinicians, as I said up front, is improving clinical performance, which I feel like the word transformation is overused,
Right.
but it really is a transformation because I'm gonna lean on Brene Brown here. I've read all of her books and including her recent one, Strong Ground, and she points out that when whatever change you're leading, it might be incremental, it might be grabbing an emerging practice, but if it's transformational, then it's going to involve people changing their mental models about their work, like who they work with, how their time is valued, what they deliver, and that's what's happening in healthcare. So the clinical performance improvement, there's part of it that's not transformational. That is tackling unwarranted variation at scale, um, and we're really just getting after that. There's certainly plenty of change management that goes with that important piece of work. I think everybody who listens to this will know that when you reduce clinical variation, you improve outcomes, you tend generally to also lower the cost of care delivery. It takes us way too long to bring scientific innovations into standard practice at the bedside. It used to take like 18 years. I think that cycle time has improved a lot, but it's still not fast enough. And while that's not transformational care, it's not to underestimate how challenging it still can be, because you end up wrestling with um, heartfelt concerns, especially by physicians, about things like cookbook medicine, um, which I like to remind everybody that the best chefs use cookbooks. Huh. And then they vamp on top of the recipe that is an 80% standard, right?
Yes.
Um, the transformational work is really changing the care model. Um, and that means changing what happens for those two people, the patient and the provider, in that relationship. And it means both parties to that relationship needing to change their mental model. For the patient, it it probably means adopting a mental model that is like, my doctor won't be the be all and end all for every single thing. I might have an AI navigator that's supporting my doctor. Um,
That would be a significant change, not just for the patient, but for your colleagues.
Absolutely. And on that side of the equation, the same mental model change has to happen. Like, oh, I'm not going to work alone anymore. I'm going to work on a team. I'm not only going to work on a team of providers, I'm going to work on a team of healthcare professionals who support the providers. I'm going to leverage technology in different ways. Maybe I've got that AI ride along that's helping me do ambient listening in the clinic, but also is embedded in my ordering function and helping me make some of the right choices. And oh, by the way, helping my patient, and on the back end of the business, helping the rev cycle. I mean, it's mental model change for the two key parties to the relationship that at the end of the day is the product that we deliver.
So if people are opening their minds, that's great, and accepting the idea that technology can be helpful as well as hallucinating. But if it is, I think you said ride along, so you've got a AI ride along with the physician. Um, there still has to be a high level of trust involved, certainly. What
Absolutely.
do how do we view or how should the patient view the interaction with the provider? Then you talked about mental models. Seems like the patient is going to have to be accepting of a couple of things. One, not always seeing the doc and not just talking to Dr. Google, but um, or Dr. Chat GPT, if that's your, or Dr. Claude, or pick your favorite.
Yeah.
Um, but also seeing an APP more
Yep.
regularly. And, our supply of physicians, at least in the pipeline, is not nearly sufficient to serve the emerging population of people that need more and more care, the boomers, but also the mentality of the newer patients, the folks in their 20s, 30s, 40s, the digital natives, they have a different
Yep.
perspective too. Seems like this is significant change that you're touching on.
It is. And the realities of the situation that we face, they'll make all of those changes you just mentioned necessary. Um, Now, I know there are places, there's plenty of places in healthcare where you can focus on a different care model that's not really rooted in population health. That's maybe serving a small group or serving, in a concierge way. Just my leadership role puts me in a space where, as the largest healthcare system in our state, it feels like there should be, and there is, an obligation to get care for everybody who needs it. So with that obligation, then you look at the fundamental bones that we're dealing with. Um, the whole country is managing a more complex patient population. In our market, we're also managing, while we're enjoying significant in migration, a very large percentage of that is older adults who, even if they're healthy, just will be coming with a larger bag of problems and
Sure.
medications. As we're dealing with that, we're dealing with, as you've called out, a workforce pipeline that is simply not going to, it's not going to be big enough to meet the needs. And I've started saying inside our system to our physicians, like, we will not recruit our way out of this. So it doesn't mean we give up on recruiting. We're competing in a national market, but that isn't going to be the solution. And then we're doing all of this at a time when the traditional reimbursement streams that we've counted on are not only not growing, they're shrinking. And you put all that together, and it's like, oh my gosh, how are you going to take care of a population? The way you're going to do it is by redesigning the care model. And it means you're going to stop the one by one, and you're going to create a team that's going to match a patient's need and the jobs they need done on a given day in a particular encounter to the right person on the team. And it's not always going to be the same person. So we've got to do intelligent team design. Um, and we need to leverage technology, and we need to change our workflows. And I think what's in it for the patient here, um, and that's really important, that we say to the patients, like, what's in it for you? What's in it for the patient is a healthcare delivery system that sees them more completely, supported by technology, understands their needs at a deeper level, including social drivers of health, and um, meets their needs like in the moment for what they need right then. How will I say it? More accurately, instead of this, one size fits all. Oh, you're a new patient, so I'm going to schedule you for a 1 hour intake physical and exam. Well, maybe what you needed was just to connect and know that when you need something more timely, you're going to be able to be seen. So you want to establish, but you don't actually need another history and physical when you just moved here from another market. You just had one 2 years ago. You need your medications refilled. I think that's the kind of promise we can give to patients, but big mental model change required nonetheless.
Well, you hit the with them for the patient. What about the what's in it for me for the provider? If we're talking about a team, there's got to be something in it for the physician there to let go of some of the things that they've been trained in traditionally. We talked about technology. If it is to deliver on its promise, there should be something in it for the physician there as well. How does that sort out? With them for the patient, is kind of clear. What's the whiffing for the physician?
Yeah, let me not do my usual verbal processing. And I used to work with a guy that told me, Jim, you got to put the bottom line up front. Okay, so bottom line up front, what's in it for the physician is more time, more human connection time with the patient, and stronger relationships and more human connection time with all the other people that they're working with to improve health for populations. Maybe starting with that one. I have a bias on that from my own training. I came up in an era of critical care medicine, which it was kind of the golden age of critical care. We were learning all kinds of new things and new ways about resuscitation of patients and about organ supportive therapy. And we were also learning that the, what I've called the cult of personality with the, you know, doctor is the master and captain, the lone wolf, you know, everything has to come through me. A famous doctor in my specialty, Peter Pronovost, um, published in the year 2000, the first papers that started to shatter those assumptions and started to show us that in intensive care units where teams were established, where multidisciplinary rounds occurred, patients were more likely to leave alive than dead. So it actually was directly connected to mortality. And, some of us didn't believe all that stuff when it came out, but pretty quickly, my entire specialty did adopt those things. I adopted those things, and my own bias is I was all the better for it. I mean, working on a team in shared goals is just really an enriching experience. I recognize it won't be for every single doctor, and fortunately, there are still going to be plenty of places in medicine where you can kind of work solo and work alone. But I don't think those places are going to be in primary care inside organizations that are trying to manage population health. Um, on the FaceTime with patients, it's just taking away some of the administrivia that has increasingly been driven by the business model of healthcare. We do have to document the illness burden accurately. And sometimes it's like, really? I mean, I put it in my note. Why do I have to pull it out into this discrete, mineable piece of information that, can be extracted by the folks who pay the, like, why do I have to double my work? Tools like AI that read unstructured data can like really help eliminate a lot of nonsense. Tools like AI applied to patient navigation can help the patient not have to reach out to the doc. Hey, doc, I know you asked me to go see this referral, but I don't know where it is. It's lost in the ether. Can you help? Like those in basket, messages that just choke our doctors in baskets, they can go away too. So it's more time doing the things that we love.
And maybe return some quality of life as well.
Absolutely. Less pajama time.
Less pajama time. Now, sorry, Jim. I've got a picture of you in pajamas. It's not a good thing. I need to wash that away. Give us the biggest challenge that you see in the short term from your seat that we should be aware of in healthcare.
Well, I think for the optimistic side, well, let me start with the pessimistic side. I'll finish with the optimistic side. The pessimistic side is that in this moment that we're in healthcare and these changes that are coming, where I think there's going to be increased consolidation. I think there's going to be um, continued pressure on the business model. Um, uh, I, I I also think there's going to be more struggles for our patients. It seems like almost every day I read something new in Becker's about a hospital closing. Um, I was at a conference recently where another chief physician in another state told me about one of their markets where the average response time, if I dropped dead right now and Lisa jumped in the door and dialed 911 in their market, the average response time would be 58 minutes. This was a rural market, 58 minutes for an ambulance. So, that's unacceptable. But unfortunately, I think that the getting there, we're going to go through this transition period where there's going to be more um, challenges and real suffering by our patients and in our communities. And I think rural America is in a real tight spot right now. Um, that's the pessimistic side. The optimistic side is that the promise of physicians and patients, again, the two key partners in the relationship that is our product, that is where the care happens. If we do it well, the future can be brighter for both of those parties. But what I obsess about is the very human work of inspiring people to that future, like convincing them that with all the suck, the future is still bright, but it means we have to embrace a whole bunch of change. It means we have to change our mental models. It ain't going to be easy, but it's got to be worth it um, in the end.
Well, Jim, thank you. I think the concept of embrace the suck is probably a good synopsis of how we need to get through this together. With props to the University of Washington women's crew team for their slogan of a couple of years ago. Jim, you've given us the last word very elegantly. Thank you. We do have a standing tradition on the show. Maria and I are building a very strong travel itinerary, and every place that we travel to, we want to know what you, Jim Souza, Dr. Jim Souza, love to do. What's the thing we have to do in your neck of the woods, and what's a great place to eat?
Okay, well, the have to do thing is you have to come to Boise in March for Treefort Music Festival because there is something for everyone. Um, and if you come, it's like 400 plus musical acts. There's poetry, there's film. Oh yeah, there's beer. Uh, there's there's so much fun stuff to do. The weather can be a little sketch. You need to maybe bring a beanie, maybe bring a scarf, maybe bring a warm coat, maybe bring a t-shirt. You never know what you're going to get. But in the vein of you never know what you're going to get, the music festival has an amazing app that you can download and use and kind of create schedules for yourself. And I do that every year. And every year, I also just plan a block of time where I don't have a plan, where you wander into these sometimes small, sketchy, overcrowded bars and you hear something or see something. It can be either or both that that just blow your mind. Somebody who also loves what they do, who's as passionate about what they do as all of us are about what we do. And it can just be like jaw dropping to watch that. Um, and this isn't in terms of food thing, this isn't my favorite place to go, but I want to give them props. I want to give a shout out to the Funky Taco because it's funky, because they support Treat Fort. Um, And again, it's like it's got something for everybody. I mean, if you're into, more traditional stuff, their chips and dips are like you better come with your eating pants on because they take a whole corn tortilla and just cut it in half and fry that baby, and that's one chip. So you literally get this basket of like 25 tortillas with all the dips. I mean, like you pretty much don't need to order dinner. And then you like meat, their brisket birria tacos are amazing. You're a vegetarian, their mushroom birria tacos are really inventive. And then my favorite taco there is their flour power
Our power. Definitely.
tacos. Yeah.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, Jim, it truly has been a privilege. Thank you for carving out time from your schedule to join us today. We've been talking today with Dr. Jim Souza, the Chief Physician Executive for St. Luke's Health System in Boise, Idaho. Jim, thanks again. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And please join us again for Megaphone from Medvale Media. I'm Dave Self. Be well.